Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about that. Let's turn my volume down. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's QTA Queensland Training Awards webinar session. We'll just wait a couple of moments as everyone jumps on into the call. Just want to get a thumbs up that you can hear me okay. Yep, fantastic. Great. We'll just wait a couple more moments. We'll try to start on time. We certainly have a lot to get to today, but want to extend a very warm welcome to you all joining us online. It's really fantastic to have you join us. Okay. Simone, do you have your hand up to say something, or just to indicate that you're hearing us okay? Keep admitting all of our guests as we go. Okay. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to get underway. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again as we all jump on. Today, we're going to dive into the Queensland Training Awards nomination process, and we've also got some special guests joining us today to share some insights into how to craft a standout nomination. My name is Tom Treby, and I'm the program manager here at the Department of Trade, Employment and Training, and I work in the Queensland Training Awards. Can I start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands on which we all gather today, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Also, a few house. Oh, we can't hear me. Okie dokie. I'm just getting that message that people can't hear me. Just going to jump into the chat there for a second. Okay. Apologies. I think there was a couple of messages in the chat saying that you couldn't hear me, but I might address that in the housekeeping, which is actually the next section anyway. So cameras and microphones have been disabled for attendees of today's presentation. So I encourage you to please use the chat and the Q&A functions that are just in the top bar of your MS Teams screen. And also, just please note that we're going to be recording today's session for future reference. Thank you also for providing in advance those couple of extra details when you were registering for this webinar. It was really great to see. It told me that around 75% of today's of the registrants for today's session have not nominated in the not nominated in the awards before. So that's really important. We will look to cover off the basics in this session. And it was also really great to see that 77% or around that of people who registered for today are interested in nominating for the awards this year, which is fantastic. And there was another 21% who were unsure. So we're hoping that the information we provide today can help convert you and get you on board for the awards this year. I'd also like to introduce our QTA State Coordinator, Simone Smiles, who really is the driving force behind the QTA and has been for a number of years. So do you want to just say a quick hello, Simone?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first ever Queensland Training Awards webinar. We're so excited to be able to, I guess, discuss and answer any of your questions. Given the program itself has been running for a long, long time, and I've actually been in the role, this is my 14th year. So over the years, I've actually heard and seen so many amazing, stories come out of this awards program, not to mention, the elevation that you'll have within your business and also, employment opportunities. So welcome. Let's sit back and I guess get through the webinar and by all means put your questions in the chat and we'll get on with it. I know we're sort of crushed for time, so I'll hand back over to Tom and we'll get into it.
Thanks, Simone. Okay, so let's start with why we're here. as Simone said, the Queensland Training Awards has been around a long time, and it's all about recognising excellence in vocational education and training, whether you're an individual who's embarked on a training journey or an organisation that believes in the power of skills. The QTAs have represented the state's highest recognition of excellence in vet training, and they've been running since 1962. So with 14 categories, the awards acknowledge apprentices, trainees, students, teacher trainers, training providers and employers. And by showcasing the success stories in vocational education and training, best practices and innovations, QTAs really highlight the transformational power of skills. So why should you nominate the awards? It really is the perfect opportunity to celebrate your achievements in vet, network with peers and industry leaders as well, and gain recognition for excellence and the hard work you put in. So a QTA nomination, a written nomination, isn't just a list of achievements. It really is about telling your unique story in a way that puts your best foot forward and hopefully resonates with judges. Today, we'll aim to give you tools and tips to do exactly that while keeping things as simple and as stress-free as possible. So today, just a quick overview, we'll introduce our special guests, we'll look at the awards categories, look at preparing your nomination in 5 easy steps, look at drafting responses and some tools that are available to help with that, some writing tips for do's and don'ts, gathering the supporting materials, and submitting your nominations. And at the end, we'll absolutely have time for some Q&A. I thank everyone who's pre-submitted a question, and just know that we will get to every question. If not today, we'll get back to you in writing to make sure they're all questions are responded to and answered. So now it's time to introduce our special guests for today. They've been there and done it, and they've been so generous in sharing their experiences. So we have Rebecca Hoffensets, who was our 2024 Queensland Vet Teacher Trainer of the Year, and also our North Queensland winner from up in Townsville. And we also have Helen Tate, who's the Executive Officer of Ginganji, Mandalay Bay, Yidinji People's Prescribed Body Corporate Aboriginal Corporation, and an amazing business up in Far North Queensland, who were the gold medalists for Australian Small Employer of the Year, as well as our Queensland Small Employer winner, and obviously the Far North Queensland Small Employer of the Year. So welcome to Beck and Helen. We'll weave our guests into the conversation as we go, but please, take the opportunity to ask questions of these experts. So I might start there. Beck and Helen, I'll throw to you. So what's one thing or one message that you'd share with someone who was thinking about nominating for QTA? Beck, we'll go first with you, hey?
Fabulous. Hi everyone. Sunny North Queensland here. I think that you have nothing to lose from this and everything to gain. There's absolutely, all you're doing is putting down in writing what you do, and you and your program or your progress was celebrated, and you make so much more connections and skills and opportunities that come out from it, which is cool.
Thanks, Beck. Over to Helen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the intro, Tom. And yeah, absolutely agree with Beck. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose, and it opens your eyes up to, I don't know, such an incredible network and opportunity and people that you meet through the whole awards process. And I think for us, we nominated for 3 consecutive years before we were recognised as the winner. So highly recommend keep going. Like, apply and nominate this year, and if you're not successful, show up next year and keep having a go. And it's really great recognition of all your training success and outcomes. And we certainly didn't, set out to be a leader in vet training. That's happened organically, but it's so great to be recognised for the hard work that we've completed over the last four years or so. So yeah, highly recommend being involved, submit a nomination.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you so much. Okay. So now we're going to move on into the awards categories. So before you get going, it's important to understand the awards categories. There are categories for individuals like apprentices and trainees, and also for organisations like training providers and employers. So a full list of categories are displayed here. There are 11 that are contested at a regional level first, and then there are an additional 3 that are run at a state level only, that being the small training provider, large training provider, and previous industry collaboration award. So it's important to choose the right one. There's eligibility criteria for each, and they're going to be your best friend here. So double check them on our website to ensure that you're applying for the right one, but also know that we've got lots of helpers and our QTA coordinators who can give you guidance as to the right category for you. So the Harry Hornschild Apprentice of the Year category is for an apprentice who's been outstanding in all aspects of their training, and they're completing their training in the current financial year. So that'll be from the 1st of July 2024 to the 30th of June 2025. The Bob Marshman Trainee of the Year is for a trainee who's been outstanding in all aspects of their training, again, finishing their training in the current financial year. Vocational Student of the Year is for a vocational student who's been outstanding. So obviously not someone doing a vet qualification that's not an apprenticeship or a traineeship. And again, the eligibility window is the current financial year. We've got the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Student of the Year category as well, for an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander student who is outstanding in all aspects of their training and demonstrates the importance of lifelong learning for themselves and the community. So this category actually must nominate in either apprentice, trainee, vocational student, or school-based. And they must select that they identify as an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person and also wish to nominate in that particular category. And then there's an additional written criteria to respond to in that regard. We've got our school-based apprentice or trainee of the year for outstanding achievement by a Queensland school-based apprentice or trainee undertaking or completing a certificate 2 or above qual and currently enrolled at school at the time of nominating. Our Equity Student of the Year is for a student who's demonstrated outstanding achievement in overcoming a significant barrier or disadvantage to effectively participate in vet training. And that one recognises a lot of great participants in our Skilling Queenslanders for Work program. The Vet Teacher or Trainer of the Year is awarded for innovation and excellence by a teacher or trainer providing nationally recognised training to students at a registered training organisation or in partnership with an RTO. And quickly moving over to organisational, so our Small Employer of the Year is for a business with 19 or fewer full-time equivalent employees who's achieved excellence in providing nationally recognised training to its workforce. Then Medium Employer is the same, but for a medium business with between 20 and 199 full-time equivalent employees. And our Large Employer is the same again for a large business with 200 or more full-time equivalent employees. A community training initiative as well is for a community-based, not-for-profit organisation delivering a specific program or project to Queenslanders who need support to gain their skills, experience and qualifications required to enter and stay in the workforce. A Small Training Provider of the Year is for a registered training organisation with fewer than 500 students that demonstrates excellence in all aspects of vet. And then our Large Training Provider is for a large RTO with 500 or more students. And finally, our Premier's Industry Collaboration Award is for exemplary skills development in a collaboration between at least one employer or industry body and at least one training provider. So there's selection criteria which varies for each category. So please visit our website to check out the full eligibility and selection criteria for each one. Sorry, that was quite a chunk of content to get through there, but now it's where it gets exciting. So your written nomination isn't just a formality, it's actually your opportunity to tell your story. So whether you're an apprentice who's overcome obstacles or an organisation that's really driving innovation in training, your story is what will set you apart. So think about the challenges you've faced, the achievements that you're proud of, and the impact you've made. Weave these elements together to create a narrative that's really authentic and inspiring, and you'll set yourself up to do well in the Queensland Training Awards. We've actually broken down the nomination process into 5 simple steps. Now, we do have a little video here. I'm going to try to play it. I think a video is much better than me talking it through. So let me give this a go. And if you can hear it or not. I can see it's still thinking about it. Apologise for that, folks, but we'll absolutely get the link through afterwards. And I will talk through the 5 simple steps. So firstly, okay, yep, the video is just buffering. Okay, thank you for that. I'll just maybe let it buffer for 1 second. Is it playing for you guys at that end, or is it still buffering? Not playing? Excellent. Sorry. Okay. Apologies there, folks. I believe it was playing for some and not others. So I will quickly run through that verbally as well. So the first step is to check the eligibility and requirements. So to make sure you're eligible, check out the and use the tool to identify the correct region to nominate in. Second step is to gather and support gather your supporting materials, so photos, testimonials, and project details. Third one is to draft your responses, and we'll get into that a bit more just now. This is where you use the provided templates to structure your answers. Review and refine, so don't submit it without a thorough check. Feedback from a mentor or colleague is really invaluable. And then finally, to submit the nomination, which are due on the 11th of March 2025 just before midnight. So mark that in your calendar. I'm going to throw to Beck and Helen now. So, guys, would you mind telling us a bit about the power of your story or elements in your mind that set you apart? Go to Beck first.
It's because I moved, isn't it? I think it's really hard when you, and I'm sure everyone here is humble. You know that you do good things, but it can be really hard to communicate. And so I didn't think my story stood out. And much like Helen, I've actually applied 3 times as well. I was lucky enough to be at regionals all 3 times, which is fantastic. But honestly, it was a shock. And I guess what stands out for me is I have a very unique role in my workplace now, where I'm linked with a training provider. So I do third-party training and assessing for CTA training specialists, but I'm embedded within the building. So we have 1,000 team members, and so we get to really dive deep into training with them. So vocational education forms a really big pillar of that. And it's really just thinking about what sets you apart. Don't spend your time comparing yourself to other people. Spend your time building your story about what you do and being able to communicate that well.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I would agree with what Beck's saying as well. And I think you know your story better than anyone. So you're the best person to articulate what you do and how you do it. I found like resources that are available on the QTA website really helpful as well, and looked at previous winners. So you can actually see some examples because when you start that first time we were applied for community training initiative, actually. So we were in a different category altogether. So went on and looked at previous winners' applications to help us sort of guide it through. And we were a top 3 finalists for community training for 3 consecutive years. And knowing who we were up against and who, each year that they would win, and we didn't, we'd sort of walk away as a finalist, looked at a small employer of the year category and actually submitted last year in 2 categories as well. So don't think that you're just limited to one category either. We also looked at our staff, and we nominated one of the trainees in the Bob Marshman category, and he was automatically went into the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander category, and he was a top 3 finalist for Far North Queensland as well last year. So it's not just about the organisation. Have a look and identify who else within your team is worthy of recognition, and use that opportunity to celebrate. and go to the events with, you know, even if you're not a top 3, go along to the awards nights and celebrate those achievements with your team. And we've been going for the last 3 years now. The guys love it. So yeah, highly recommend nominating, looking at all the information, and connect with your Tom or whoever your person is in your region. They were a huge help for us as well. So I think in the power of the story, the other things that we also use were photographs. So you've got to attach, I think, 5 or 6 photographs with your nomination. So I think make sure that your photographs are linked and articulated with your words that you're putting into your nomination as well. So I think that's a photograph is powerful. And one of our photographs actually appeared in the Australian Training Awards book and on all their letterheads and things. So you never know. So I really think a photograph is, you know, says 1,000 words as well. So choose your photographs to articulate what you do in your nomination as well.
Thanks, Helen. Yeah, great, absolutely great tips, and very much links nicely to our next section, which is on drafting your responses. So, as Helen just mentioned there, we actually have, if you're not sure how to start drafting your nomination, it's a common thing, but don't stress, because we've actually got drafting templates on the KeyChair website, and they really are a secret weapon. So they're available for all categories, and they can help you structure your answers while actually, you know, covering off the specific selection criteria. Just think of them as like a bit of a roadmap. Follow along, and you'll be on track to creating a great nomination. There's obviously also examples of successful nominations, which I'll get to in a minute. But in terms of what you have to write to nominate for the awards, for individuals, there's an overview section of around 300 words, and then there is usually 4 criterion with 400 words, 400 word limit in each. So these will generally, for students, apprentices and trainee categories, these will generally cover off things like career and study achievements, team and communication skills, the ability to be an ambassador for training, and also the other qualities and pursuits of an individual. And please note, as I mentioned before, there's an additional criterion for the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander Student of the Year category, and which is also for an additional 400 words. And that one's really about community engagement as well. So for the equity student category, the focus is a little bit more on the challenges and barriers to accessing and participating in vet training, and then how the individual overcame those barriers. And for the vet teacher trainer category, the word count jumps up a little bit to 600 words. But the focus there is on excellence and initiatives of the trainer, how they address certain learner needs, commitment to vet training and learning, and obviously their links to industry and community. For the organisational categories, there's usually a business summary section that asks a few more details around, you know, the numbers that they have in training and outcome statistics and those sort of things. But then the actual criteria, again, jumps up to 800 words for between 3 and 5 criterion to respond to. But they generally cover off the extent and quality of training for employees, achievements that the organisation attributes to training, integration of training into business planning, and innovation in training as well. So in the interest of time, I won't go through all the organisational categories, because there's a fair few subtle variances in those criterion. But please know that it's absolutely covered off in the drafting templates, and also the criteria documents, and also in the actual nomination portal itself. So it's very easy to navigate. Just as we're talking about writing, I just wanted to quickly put a comment in on artificial intelligence, or AI. So AI tools like ChatGPT and others can be a really helpful and useful tool for brainstorming and refining ideas. But we strongly advise against using AI-generated content verbatim in your awards application. Authenticity, personal insight, and a genuine connection to your achievements and your story are key to a compelling submission. So it's just something that AI simply can't replicate. So, you know, reviewers and judges will be able to see if your nomination lacks that authenticity or human touch, maybe. So make sure that your application truly reflects your voice and your experiences. Yeah, and obviously, just going back to a point that Helen made before, you can nominate yourself, or you can also write a nomination on behalf of someone else. But again, it's important to work with that person to seek that authentic voice and make sure that the person you're nominating is aligned to what you're putting together as well. Because as you get further down the awards process, we have seen it happen where someone submits a nomination on behalf of someone else, but the actual nominee isn't fully across or aligned to what the nomination said. So, we just have to make sure that you line that up really well and make sure the nominee is involved in that process. So just in terms of what success looks like as well, as Helen and Beck mentioned, there are examples of successful nominations on the QTAir website. And the ones that won just aren't a list of facts. They're engaging, they're clear, and they're full of evidence. For example, a nominee might talk about how they've improved their community or transformed their own life through training. And, what made them shine was their ability to provide specific examples and show how their achievements align with the selection criteria. Okie dokie, we'll keep moving on. So here are some golden rules for writing a great nomination in QTAs. We'll start with the do's. So do be clear and concise, right from the reader's perspective, and don't overcomplicate things unnecessarily. Again, as we said before, it's important to provide specific examples to illustrate your points. General statements such as, I'm a good team member, or I have an understanding of industry trends, or training is fundamental to the success of our business. They're all great statements to say, but you really must support those with clear evidence and practical examples to really add weight to the nomination. Because judges are looking for evidence of how training has contributed to your career and study plans and the development of your skills to date. As well as examples of how training may have helped you in achieving other pursuits as well. Adhering to the word limit is another do. It's important to do that because the system itself will actually cut off after that allocated word count. So whether it be 400, 600 or 800 words, the system will actually cut off at that point. So make sure that you craft your response to say everything that you want to say within that allocated word amount. It's really important as you go through. And also proofread. Typos and grammatical errors really do make a difference. So it's avoid them by doing a thorough review and as we've said before, asking someone for feedback or to read through it. Again, we can provide support in that regard as well via our QTAir regional coordinators. And then we'll move on to the writing don'ts. So, some common mistakes that we see and how to avoid them. So don't leave any questions unanswered or with a one-sentence response. It's we see that really time and time again. And I guess that really speaks to the fact that, apprentices and trainees oftentimes, writing a nomination themselves, it might be a bit foreign and they might be a bit understated and, might be a bit sort of get to the point, but we really want to explore those ideas and tell those stories. So it is important to expand if you can, to leverage the word count and delve a little bit deeper into people's stories. Lacking evidence as well, making a claim, as we said before, making a claim, back it up with practical examples, and ignoring the question criteria. So you want to make sure you know which what each criteria is asking you. So it might be a point of going, well, here's the point I want to make. Which section should I include that in to make sure it aligns to that particular criterion? So it is good to have that whole view of the nomination and make sure you're including bits as you go related to the actual question criteria and responding to that criteria really closely as well. So I'll throw back to our special guests, Beck and Helen. Do you have any tips or advice from that sort of writing perspective, knowing that you have tried a couple of times and also ultimately been successful, and tips from personal experience or perspectives on that?
Yes, I'm happy
Go
to
Helen
add
first,
first.
eh?
Yeah, okay. In the actual nomination, you'll find next to the boxes where you type your answers, there's dot points next to each of the boxes. So the way I crafted our applications was to actually put the dot points into a Word document and actually answer the questions there, and then copied and paste the answers back into the template. So I highly recommend you doing that. I think in our first 2 years when we nominated for Community Training Initiative, we were top 3 finalists. And again, last year, the difference was that we submitted references with our applications last year's where we didn't do that the prior years. So I don't know if that changed anything for us or not. We still didn't win top 3 or didn't win community training, but we did win small employer. So I think having those references and having someone within the industry to vouch for and verify your training records and outcomes and everything you're saying in your statements in your nomination is also really powerful. So yeah, there was a couple of things. And then obviously looking at those successful winner applications from prior years, just to kind of give you some inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Those references make a huge difference. Whether you're applying as a business, because I take care of the large employer of the year applications here, having those references from businesses you work with, through to vocational education trainers, have references from your students. It's really heartfelt references that they're writing, and it's incredible to read of the impact that you're making. And then when you're looking at your vocational education, apprenticeships and whatnot, you can get a reference from your employer, from your training provider, and they're really amazing to read. But also when you are putting statistics in, make sure if you're using it across 2 criteria that they match, that they don't say different numbers, and that they're relevant, and use those words. We always use 75 to 100% of the word limit, just so that you can get to know the person a little bit more. Yeah,
that's a really good tip, Beck. Sorry, you had something else, Helen?
Well, I was just going to say too, remember too that getting past the nomination is the first step. And if you're nominated and you're successful in the top 5, you also then have to be interviewed. So you've got to also make sure that what you're putting in your nomination that you can share quite easily in a 20-minute interview. So which is not something that it goes really quickly that time. So really be prepared for that as well, and making sure that you can back up what you're saying in your nomination.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Helen, too. I just thought of an example I might give as well in terms of delving a bit deeper. But I also wanted to maybe throw to Simone if there was anything that she wanted to add in this particular section around the writing, having seen so many nominations over the course.
Well, Tom, I, as the state coordinator, try not to actually read the nominations because I want to be seen fair and impartial. I really don't. But the actual people that do have a look at the nominations are the regional coordinators. They're the guys that actually go through and have a look at the criteria, making sure that we're doing our word, count, making sure that the correct attachments are in there, making sure that we're actually putting our name as, Simone Smiles, capital S for Smiles, not all caps, that sort of stuff. Because when we put the information into Award Force, that is the information that will go into the programs and so forth. So the regional coordinators are the ones that will be able to add some more tips. So I did see Renee online, and I've got Tracy, so I'll throw to Renee. What do you look for when you actually go in? Do you have any tips for please do's and please don'ts?
Now I might just have to elevate Renee here so that she can.
Okay, and Tracy.
Yeah, sure.
They're the first 2 that I've seen. I do have feedback from some of the judges that do sort of say to me that, they're not actually addressing the criteria. So I guess from that perspective, I can say, please read the actual criterion. and really
Yeah.
kind of understand it, and that you're answering the question, that you're actually answering what the criterion is actually asking.
Yeah.
So yeah, have we got
I-
Renee
I-
online yet?
Yeah.
Hello, Renee here. So I think one of the really important things in your nomination that you need to have a look at is definitely have a read of the guidelines, because in there you've got some really handy prompts that will help prompt the information that's required depending on the answer that you question, depending on the question that you are answering. So examples might be, how involved are you, in your community? Are you involved in a community sport? Are you involved in Rotary or Zonta? What else are you doing outside of training in your workplace as an individual or an employer even? How are you placed within the community? Have you got really strong networks? Are you involved with a cultural group? Any sort of voluntary work and things like that you're doing, that always supports your application. So it's really worthwhile mentioning those sorts of things. It's really good to make sure, I think also, that you are being really clear. So use your dot points and things like that. So don't get lost in too many words. So as succinct as you can make it, it might be as simple as saying, involved in community and in this group, and what your role with that is. So keep it very succinct and encouraging the use of bullet points, because these judges are reading so many nominations. The more clear you can make that, it makes your life easier, but it also makes it easier for the judges as well. I might throw to Tracy and see if she wants to add anything.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Tracy.
Great, thank you. Sorry, that took a moment. Thanks, Renee, and also thank you, Helen. I have to agree with both of you. In terms of probably the best tip I could give would be around those dot points and the considerations that we've already set out, which is listed in the portal for you. So if you look at each one of those dot points and then try to answer each one of those, prepare an answer for each one of the dot points for that particular criteria, that will certainly help you along in your nomination journey. Obviously, adding the word count is very, very important to ensure that you're giving enough information for the judges to actually read and score or look at your nomination during the judging process. Don't be scared to add plenty of personality. Talk about yourself is really important, and provide examples as well. So please do put examples into your nominations where and when you can. And the awards is very much about, ambassadors for vocational education and training. So please, put some extra effort into that particular question. It is in all of the question sets for each of the criteria around being an ambassador for VET. So that's probably a tip.
That's a great tip, Tracy. And I just wanted to add to that quickly too. Adding that personality or that heart also relates to organisations as well. I can think back to an example from a few years ago where I was reading an employee nomination, and they just so happened to mention that the year prior they'd actually employed their first female apprentice in a workshop type environment, and they sort of stated it, and they sort of said it was big for them in terms of coming up, getting with the times, but they sort of left it there, and I thought. Give it a bit of heart to say, well, what was her name? What did it mean to her to be the first in your workplace? How did it change your workplace? And what was the benefits? And sort of sculpt that story a bit more. I thought that it was a little tip as well about adding a bit of heart and a bit of story to, and obviously organisations are trying to get through what they want to say. But there's just another little writing tip there as well. I saw we had Karen as well, who just. I might add Karen in here. So just to introduce people as we go as well, Renee is our Central Queensland coordinator for QTA, and Tracy, who we just heard from, is our Brisbane Metropolitan QTA coordinator. We've also got Karen, who's our Darling Down Southwest coordinator as well. Did you just want to add something in there as well, Karen? I just saw your chat come through. as I quickly elevate you to be a presenter as well.
Yep, here we go. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I said in the comments there that, yeah, please have someone read over your nomination before you hit that submit button. It's really important that, especially if you're working with an employer on your nomination, or you're working with a school teacher or a training organisation, they might say to you, look, you forgot to add this in. You did this, during your training, or you won this award while you were working, in the workplace. Don't forget to add these things, because you're so focused on trying to get your nomination done, you just sometimes forget about those things that are really important that other people pick up on, that you've been doing throughout the time of your employment or your training, or even, working with an employer. Get someone that, if you work with another business, that they're your client, or, you service them, maybe ask them to read over it, because then, they might again say to you, oh, you forgot to add this in. And you're like, oh, yes. So those sort of things are really helpful tips as well, just to make sure you've got someone reading over it. And again, yes, checking for spelling and grammar. The amount of times I've seen nominations come in and there's lots of spelling mistakes. And, I've always gone back to them and saying, look, please have someone read over it, put it through a spell check, because obviously the system doesn't have that functionality to be able to pick up those spelling errors. So just some great tips there for that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Karen. Okay, well, there's only a couple of slides left, then we'll get into the question and answer. So we'll keep pressing forward. So in terms of gathering supporting materials, as we said before, and Beck and Helen have attested to, the supporting materials can really add weight to your nomination as well. So great photos, letters of recommendation, and project outcomes can really provide extra proof of your achievement. So just make sure that what you're adding is relevant. And this section is taken from the online nomination portal. So we really would require a professional/presentable headshot for an individual nomination, 3 to 5 workplace or publicity photos, ensuring that you've got consent for those in the photos. A copy of the qualification or certificate that you're talking about is also good to attach if you have it at that time. Some of the optional or recommended ones are obviously letters of support from trainers, employers, and partners. Any newspaper or other articles that might sort of happen along the way, and photocopies of other awards and certificates as well. We just sort of try to limit it a little bit more around 5 single label 4 pages passed on, but we any more than that we don't. And also the attachments must not exceed 10 megabytes per attachment. You'll see there's all the formats there, but that's pretty easy to navigate. I guess the key thing is this comes up at the end of your nomination, but don't leave it till the end of your nomination to think about it. Okay, so as we've said, you actually register your nomination early. Please do that. So jump onto qta.awardsplatform.com. There you'll be prompted to create an account if it's your first time there. And once you create an account, you'll get an email to confirm your account. But once you've done that, you can actually start your nomination, and then you can log back in and log back out as many times as you like. Just chip away at it. And you can also change nomination after you hit the submit button too, if you need to. Also, the big thing there is that obviously our deadline, which is just under 2 weeks away today. So nominations close at 11:59 p.m. Queensland time on Tuesday, the 11th of March, 2025. And just remember to get to it as early as you can so that there's no last minute stress. And submitting is very easy though through the online portal. So please, where possible, don't wait until the last day in case of any technical issues or internet issues. Okay, so that's that. We just wanted to really also reiterate, as we welcome some of our QTA coordinators onto the call as well, that you're absolutely not alone in this process. The website itself has a treasure trove of resources, including a full range of FAQs on the awards, as well as those drafting templates, nominations examples, and the regional coordinators. We've met Tracy, we've met Karen, we've met Renee as well. sorry, did I say Tracy? There's a few more on the line on the line as well. Joanne's here. But these guys are, they're available to help. If you have any questions, and they're absolutely your go-to, they're your cheer squad as well. And don't be afraid to reach out. Sometimes a quick phone call or a quick question, a quick conversation can really clarify things as you go forward. And the actual, on the QChat website, under regional coordinators, under the contact us section, we've actually got names, emails and phone numbers for each of our coordinators. So absolutely do not hesitate to reach out. So now we're going to pause for questions. So let's do that. Do we have any? I might start with any questions that have come through the chat or Q&A to start with. And I see that the coordinators have been jumping on those questions as well, so I appreciate that. Okay. Would you like evidence of consent to use photos? I believe there's a checkbox within the submission process around consent for the photos. Correct me if I'm wrong, Simone. But as long as you sort of go through that process yourself, that's and know that the photos may be used in the awards from that point, that should be sufficient. Just the question was around, would you like evidence of consent to use photos?
There's tick boxes all along the way, pretty much, basically.
Yeah.
Once you sign your name here, that you consent to this, and this. So, I guess, if you've got photos with other people in it, please make sure you get their consent. At the end of the day, we potentially, especially if it's just supporting evidence, it won't typically be used, but it's just basically nice to see that you've got a team and so forth. Some of the photos can be used though, so the consent that you get, and once you tick that box, that covers us to use that photo.
Yeah, fantastic. Just a reminder that, please use the chat. Do they need to be professional photos or regular photos? Okay, look, regular photos are fine. We know that iPhones are pretty great these days, and you can take some pretty great images doing that. And even on the website, there are some tips around how to frame up and how to sort of set up a headshot and other photos. Think about lighting, think about aspect and that sort of thing. So there's some tips on the website to help you with that as well, just to take stuff on your phone.
Maybe just no selfies though.
No selfies. Good point.
No selfies.
No
Those
selfies.
headshots actually get used in the program. So please make sure that it's a nice headshot, professional environment, or in your environment, but just get somebody else to take the photo. That would be amazing.
Okay. We've had another question come through. If you're working in industry on mentoring and running seminars, workshops and conferences aside from your vet training, would you include this information? Yeah, I would. I think that adds to the the depth and breadth of what you do. So I'd absolutely include that, not only in your nomination, but also in your attachments if you can. Thanks for that question, Andrea, as well. Obviously, organisations don't need headshots. Organisations just need copies of logos, please. So I guess that's the organisational equivalent of a headshot, is a high-res copy of your logo as part of the submission. Yep, great. And we're jumping on those questions too. But also, I might just get to some of the pre-submitted questions as well, and know that we'll come back to you in writing and follow you up for all those folks who submitted a question beforehand as well. And I think we've probably answered a few of these as we've gone in the discussion today. So there was one around great examples. Look, we've got examples of successful winning nominations on the website too. So I'd absolutely point you to those examples. Yeah. I might even throw these to Simone, if that's okay. If I ask the question, Simone, would you give an answer?
I can do my best, or I'll get the coordinators on.
Yeah, of course.
Or we can also get Jenna Halley to jump on board and answer some of the questions. Given that she's been through the whole process of regional, state, national, and also then judged at national. So depending on the question, we will use the resources that we have online today.
Yeah. Hi, Jenna. Welcome on. Yeah, look, have we asked a question there? There was a question around, what are the judges looking for, or how is the decision made and by whom? So, mate, yeah, maybe let's touch on that if that's okay.
Yep, no worries. So just with the setup and the judging process that we have at State, after I answer this, Jen, I'll then throw to you to give your experience. But we actually go through the nomination period, which is the written application. Once that is closed, we then do an online judging. So I currently am getting all the judges online, and then I'll build panels, and then I'll put that into Award Force, and then they'll jump into Award Force and do online judging. They actually do your criteria are measured out of 10 or marked out of 10. And then basically once all the judging has completed, I then take the top 5. So the top 5 are the ones that then go through to the telephone interviews. Once we get to the top 5 telephone interviews, the telephone interviews are performed. So it's roughly around about 27 to 30 panels that I organise. So it's about 60 odd judges. And once we get all those scores in, that's done. The telephone interviews are done. I then get a top 3, and it also identifies at that time who is actually the winner of that category. So after that point, that's when we actually advise who the finalists are. Now, the written application is actually weighted like 30%, and the telephone interview is 70%. So both scores are added together. So you got your written application, and then your telephone interview scores are actually added together, and then it basically gives us your overall score, which then identifies the actual winner of that category and region. So please just bear in mind that when you're actually in your telephone interview that you're quite succinct, and you answer the questions. Do tell your story, but don't waffle as such. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. We just need to, like, we've literally got 15 minutes for individuals and 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes for the business categories. So we really have got a lot of people to get through, but we need to know the best of the best at the end of the day. So that is the process from my side. Jenna, have you got anything you want to add from your side?
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Going back to the nomination side, I will add to Beck and Helen's that it was very unnerving having to talk about myself, and I didn't realise just how much of my story I was missing that now 3 years later has become quite important. So, or not important, but it was the standout stuff. So just things to me that were normal Jenna things were things that were interesting to other people, and then I elaborated on that and obviously went through regional, state, and then national. Judging is the hardest thing, hardest part of it. The nomination side of it is, again, I'll go with my own nomination. Now is not the time to be humble. So include those things in your nomination, because we don't get to see you as a person. We're reading words, and I really want to see what your personality, I'm not judging this year, but yeah, I want to see personality and stuff. So if I can see, we get that in words and stuff like that. And then on a national level, the same thing. We want to know who you are.
Thanks, Jenna. Does anybody else want to add to that? Beck, Helen? Beck, if you want to go first. Oh, no,
I think she said, yeah, I think she said it perfectly. Yeah, don't be humble. Sell yourself. That sounds crazy. But like we need to feel you as a person. We need to get to know you through a piece of paper, which is hard. Yes, it's only 30%, but that's how we progress through to the next stages, and that application goes with you through all of those stages as well. So yeah, time to put some thought into that, and who you are and what your story is. You won't have it straight away, but ask other people to contribute to your story. What do you think of this program? And yeah, you can use that in your nomination as well.
I'd agree with that too. and knowing too that you're not just writing a regional or a state nomination, you're actually writing a national nomination, because you go through, and not knowing this either, we were very unaware and naive about the process. So the fact that you get to hear today through this webinar the steps that you go through, I think is amazing, because I didn't know any of this until we went to Brisbane, and then next minute you get a phone call saying you're a top 3 for Australia. It's like, what? That's crazy. So, and they used and based our nomination off the Queensland one that we wrote for our regional. So yeah, you were writing potentially an Australian award-winning nomination. So sell yourself.
So when you actually move and progress, obviously things change over that time. So when you've written your nomination, you've probably done a few more little achievements. Don't fail to actually mention those sorts of things in your interview. So they've read on paper words. So now's the time to actually sort of, I guess, go above and beyond what's on the paper here. So, they've already read that. They want to know the new stuff, and how you've tied it in and how you've progressed and how you've learnt. Okay, Tom, what's the next question?
I just wanted to give a shout out to Karen, who's doing a great job of responding to a couple of queries on the chat. But yeah, just a couple other ones that were pre-submitted. What is the relevance of the award career-wise? I think we've got some amazing winners who can attest that it's a career-affirming thing to be recognised in that way. What does it mean for your career, Jenna?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question, because, I didn't know Simone at the time, but my whole life has changed. I'm nearly 3 years since I won all of my awards, and I say 2 full-time jobs now. So I appear next week. I'm doing a keynote speech in Sydney. I live in Cairns in North Queensland. I represent as a vet ambassador multiple times a year. In my actual trade, obviously it's helped me. People know who I am, and I live in a small town, so it's a little bit easier. But nationally, the networking that I've had and the opportunities I've had to help not only the vet sector, but women in non-traditional trades around Australia is phenomenal. I've been on trams, buses, billboards, and it's quite embarrassing for me, but I can't speak highly enough. Like, nowhere did I ever think that this was going to happen to me.
People recognise Jenna at the airport because of her hair.
Yeah, and this just, nobody forgets the look. And so it's but yeah, like being able to speak next week is just one, but I'm speaking in my industry, and I've done a couple of talks for my industry, but helping, for me personally, a lot of helping women in trades, and around Australia, that's a huge thing at the moment. And yeah, Simone mentioned that when things come up in the middle of your nominations, somewhere between state and national, I agreed to do a photo shoot with iStock Images, and I the awards, and I ended up trams and billboards and everything from that, which was halfway through my nomination. So I added to it once, I'd won the little regional and then the state, and then before nationals. It was pretty wild run, especially for a country girl like me.
Amazing. Beck and Helen, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. Definitely not on trams and buses, but I've seen you on the buses. It's the networking for me. I've built an incredible professional network. LinkedIn, I think, played a really big role for that as well, connecting together with other like-minded people, as well as within your own region as well. So yeah, going and talking at the schools and really connecting with people and encouraging them to come into vocational education. Being in the hospitality industry for me, that's huge. We're trying to grow our local market. And so having those conversations and starting those careers early in hospitality, yeah, networking has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd agree with Jenna and Beck. I think for us too, the exposure and also recognition. And like we use hashtags and everything. So from QTA to ATA, and we've taken our award on tour, and our Facebook engagements nearly reached 100,000 people just from adding a few hashtags. So celebrate and share the award, like your regional nomination finalists, that the QTA process, and Simone and the team will send you out, if you get to the finalist stage, little images and things that you can use to promote the awards, or even the nomination. You can promote your nomination, and then you can promote and share with everyone as you progress through the stages from finalists. And we were there when Jenna won the award. We were a top 3 finalists 3 years ago for community training. And, it just goes to show, like, going back each year, year on year. And then we were in Canberra with Jenna last year when we won our award. So it's so great to have Far North Queensland represent. You get to see local people and connect with local people, as well as meet national and amazing people across the whole country that are doing really awesome things in training. So such an incredible experience. So yeah, nominate. And if you don't have the crack this year and don't win this year, go again next year, because we are the testament that keep trying, and, your time will come.
I see your awards behind you there too,
yeah.
on the shelf. I love that.
The Rangers did that, and we've got on the other side all our finalist ones. We've got 6 finalist frames on the other side. So
What's
yeah,
the
they're
best
all
part
here.
about that? They're all in the same coloured frame, aren't they?
They are, yes. Yeah,
Amazing,
absolutely.
amazing.
And I think too, if you're not successful in sort of reaching through finalist stage, we had one of our Rangers as the top 3 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander student of the year last year. And we're just doing another nomination for one of our trainees who just graduated in December. And we rang and asked our local officer for feedback on how we can improve this nomination that we're doing this time. And their feedback was actually not so much the written feedback, but it was about the interview. So not prepping for the interview, which actually let him down and why he didn't actually win. So I think, and that was challenging at the time. He was at Kapuka, who'd just become Australian Defence Force soldier. So, and he didn't have a lot of phone time. He only had like a small window of phone time. So I think prepping your staff or the people that you're nominating for their interview too, it's more than just given that there's 70% waiting for your phone interview, highly recommend using those 20 minutes, because they go so quickly. It's like, oh, it's finished. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Tom, we'll throw back to you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I can't believe just like that our hours come and gone. But I mean, what an amazing opportunity to have Beck, Helen, and Jenna as well, just to give a bit of inspiration as to where you can end up in this process. I know we're at the very outset and we're just starting this journey this year, but I hope that you can hold on to that inspiration for those who are going to nominate this year, and we absolutely encourage you to do so. Just also thank you to the team online who've been responding in chat, and all the questions that were pre-submitted we will come back to in writing as well. But I just wanted to leave you with just before we wrap up, just reiterate that your story matters. Don't downplay your achievements. As Jenna said, it's not a time to be humble. The Queensland Training Awards are about celebrating success, and you deserve to be recognised. So start now. Use the tools that are available. There's still 2 weeks to go, so use that time wisely. You tell your story authentically and confidently, and we absolutely wish you the best of luck in the QTA nomination. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, and you've got this. Thank you, everyone. We'll wrap it up now, but just want to thank all our special guests. Thank you for your time this lunchtime, and wishing you a very successful journey in the process and a very good afternoon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
See you later.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.